Hello and welcome to this session on computation of rate of return on investments. Do you find it difficult to compute the rate of return that you earn on an investment? Now, this is something which many people encounter in their day-to-day life. Some investment schemes explicitly mention the rate of return offered. For example, if you are investing in the fixed deposit scheme of a bank, the bank advertises or announces the rate of return paid by them on fixed deposit schemes. But there are some other investments or many investments where the rate of return is not explicitly indicated. In such investments, only the cash flows are spelled out. For example, there may be a scheme where the organization offering it is saying, pay 10,000 rupees today, you can withdraw 20,000 at the end of 6 years from now. So in this case, the rate of return is not mentioned, but the cash flows are mentioned. When you are encountering such investment schemes, it becomes important for us to calculate the rate of return. And this is where many people find it difficult to understand how to calculate rate of returns. Therefore, in this session, we will cover the basic concepts of computation of rate of return on investments. But before we proceed, let me make it very clear that we are going to talk about two types of investments: the investments which are historical in nature, or the investments which are already over, or investments in future with known certain cash flows. For example, the scheme has clearly indicated the cash flows that will be received by you in future. If the cash flows are not known, it is not possible for us to calculate the rate of return. Now, in order to compute the rate of return, we will look at three different investment horizons or holding periods. The first one is a 1 year holding period. That means investment is done today, which is maturing 1 year from now. Second is investments which have more than 1 year uh, horizon, or investments which have a life of more than 1 year. And third is investments with less than 1 year life. One more way of understanding investments is we are going to look at the cash flow patterns of investments. First is no intermittent cash flows. In other words, you invest an amount today, after some time, you withdraw the maturity proceeds. In between, there is no income coming to you. One example for this is you are buying a piece of land today and assume that there is no income from this piece of land, it is an empty land. After 6 years, if you sell this land, this is an investment where in between there is no cash flow. Another investment type is investment with intermittent cash flows. For example, if you buy the debentures or bonds of a company on which the company pays interest payment, which is also known as coupon payment. In that case, if the life of the bond is 5 years, you buy the bond today, every year the company will pay you a certain interest on the value of the bond, and at the end of 5 years, the initial investment that you have made will also be returned to you. So, this is an example of an investment which has intermittent cash flows. So we are now going to look at investments based on the holding period and investments based on the cash flow patterns involved in the investment. One thing that we must always keep in mind is, irrespective of the investment horizon, whether you are holding it for 6 months, you are holding it for 1 year, or you are holding it for 3 years, the rate of return is always expressed in annual terms. Therefore, whatever calculations we are going to do now, we are going to look at it from rate of return per annum, irrespective of the holding period. Now, one by one, let us take the cases and try to understand how we can calculate the rate of returns. Let's look at the first case. It is a 1 year horizon case with no explicit income. That means you invest something today, at the end of 1 year, you get something back. In between, there is no cash flow. In that case, the rate of return is computed using a formula which is PE divided by PB minus 1, where PE is price at the end and PB is price at the beginning, the minus 1. Let us take an example. If I bought gold at 3,425 per gram in January 2019 and sold the same in January 2020 for 3,890, that means I bought gold in January 19, sold it in January 2020. My holding period was 1 year, and normally in gold there is no income in between. I want to know what is the rate of return that I have earned in this. So price at the end will be 3,890. Price at the beginning will be 3,424. So if I apply this formula, 3,890 divided by 3,425 minus 1, it becomes 0.1358. Multiply it by 100 to convert it into a percentage, it becomes 13.58% per annum. Let us now look at a second case. Here, we are taking an investment horizon or holding period of more than 1 year and there is no explicit income. That means I am investing something today. After a period which is longer than 1 year, I get something back. In between, I don't get anything. In that case, the rate of return R is calculated as nth root of Pn divided by P naught minus 1, where Pn is the price at the end of the period and P naught is the price I pay at the beginning to buy the investment minus 1. N is number of years. Let us take another example. Assume that I bought a piece of land for rupees 65 lakhs and sold the same after 5 years for rupees 90 lakhs. There was no income from the land during this period. So 5 years it was lying as an empty land, there was no income. The rate of return on this investment, now we will find that n is equal to 5, price at the end of nth period is 90, the price at the beginning was 65. So if I take fifth root of 90 by 65 minus 1, it comes to 6.72% per annum. Let's go to the third case now. Third case is less than 1 year horizon with no explicit income. That means I am going to hold it for less than a year, but there is no income in between. In that case, again, the formula will be nth root of Pn divided by P naught minus 1. Only thing that we need to be careful here is n is m divided by 12 or d divided by 365, where m is number of months or d is number of days. So what we should do here is, if the holding period is in months, we must use n as the number of months for which I am holding divided by 12. For example, if I am holding for 6 months, n becomes 6 by 12, which is 0.5. But if the number of holding is expressed in days, that means I am holding it for 90 days, then n becomes 90 divided by 365. Otherwise, the formula remains same. So let's look at a formula. If I buy the shares of a company at rupees 450 and sell at rupees 460 after 3 months, and I am assuming there is no dividend payment during this period, the rate of return is, here you can see m is 3, which is expressed in terms of month. Therefore, m by 12 is equal to 0.25. And if we apply the formula, it will be 0.25 root of 460 divided by 450 minus 1, which is equal to 9.19% per annum. Let us now go to case 4. where we have already seen 1 year horizon, more than 1 year horizon, less than 1 year horizon with no intermittent income. Now we are looking at 1 year horizon with some explicit income in between. In this case, R will be equal to I plus price at the end divided by price at the beginning minus 1. Here I represents the income that I am getting other than the price. Say if I take an example, I bought the shares of a company at rupees 825 in January 2019. The company paid dividend of rupees 15 in 2019. I sold the shares in January 2020 at 775. What is my rate of return on this investment? That means I bought it at 825. I got 15 rupees dividend, and at the end of 1 year, I sold at 775. So here it becomes 15 plus 775 divided by 825 minus 1. Here it is minus 0.0424. Therefore, the rate of return is actually negative. That means I have lost 4.24% from this investment. Let us now look at the fifth case, more than a year horizon with explicit income. That means I am going to now hold this for more than 1 year, and in between I am going to get some income also. In this case, what happens is when we have investments with more than a year of holding period with intermittent cash flows, the computation of rate of return is not as easy as the earlier cases. In all the earlier cases, there was a formula. We have to just substitute it and get the answer. But what happens in this cases? In some cases, the rate of return can be easily estimated. Let us look at an example. If one buys a bond, somebody says you can buy a bond by paying 10,000 rupees today, and every year 1,000 rupees interest will be paid to you for the next 5 years, and at the end of 5 years, your 10,000 will be returned to you. In this case, we don't have to do any calculations. It is very clear that the rate of return is 10% per annum, because on an investment of 10,000, every year I am getting 1,000 rupees. Therefore, 1,000 upon 10,000 is 10%. This is very obvious. Let us take it little more closer to reality. Assume that the bond which we have just now seen was purchased at 10,750. Now what happens? I pay 10,750 today, but the company is going to pay me 1,000 every year for the next 5 years. At the end of fifth year, the company is also going to pay me only 10,000 rupees. In this case, my investment is 10,750, whereas incomes are 1,000 every year, followed by 10,000 at the end of fifth year. Here what happens is, it is not as easy for me to calculate the rate of return like the previous examples. So what happens is, let us take one more example. Assume that a share is bought at 925. The investor received dividends of rupees 10, 12, 15 and 18 during the 4 years of investment. That means I bought a share by paying 925. First year I got 10 rupee, second year I got 12 rupee, third year I got 15 rupee, fourth year I got 18 rupee, and at the end of 4 years I sold the share at 1,350. Here also, I cannot observe the cash flows 925, 10, 12, 15, 18,350. I cannot, by observing the cash flows, tell us what is the rate of return. Therefore, in such cases, the rate of return is defined as the value of R in this equation. Let us not worry about this equation. What we are trying to do here is bring the present value of all the future cash flows to today's terms and set it equal to 0. Let's not worry about this equation. In other words, the value of R that equates the present value of all future cash inflows to the price paid at the beginning is the rate of return. And this is also known as yield in investment terminology. In such cases, the best way to calculate rate of return is to use an Excel function. In fact, the Excel function which I am going to tell you now can be used in all the previous examples. It is not that you can use it only here, it can be used in all the previous examples. So let us now go to an Excel sheet and see how to calculate this. Here you can now see an Excel sheet where I have given certain examples. Let us take the example of the share that we have spoken about. In case of the share, we said the purchase price of share was rupees 925. We got dividends of 10, 12, 15 and 18 and sold the share at 1350 at the end of fourth year. So I'm just putting the cash flows here. Here, 0 means today. That means I'm paying 925 today. So I've shown it as minus 925 because it is a cash outflow. First year I got 10 rupees. Second year I got 12 rupees. Third year I got 15 rupees. And fourth year I got 18 rupees plus I sold the share at 1350. So put together it is 1350 plus 18, which is 1368. So first we need to give the cash flows like this in Excel. One thing that we have to remember is we have to start with 0 year representing time of purchase. We have to show all cash outflows as negative values. Whenever there is a cash outflow or whenever we are paying, we have to show it as minus. Whenever we are receiving cash flows, it should be shown as a positive value. And then we have to use an Excel function called IRR or internal rate of return. The syntax for IRR is equal to IRR and we just give the range. See, this years given here are also not important. So I'm going to just show you how to do it here. So I'm going to put is equal to IRR. We open the bracket and just select this range of cash flows and then close the bracket and just put an enter. So we got it. In this particular case, the rate of return per annum is 11.18%. This IRR function can be used for any investment. Only thing is, when there are no intermittent cash flows, we have to show 0 here. We have to keep showing 0. In that case, IRR function can be used there also. Let's look at a second example now. An example of the bond which I told you. I purchased the bond at 10,750, but the face value of the bond is 1,000. So every year I am going to get 1,000 rupees. Last year I will get the interest of 1,000 plus face value 10,000 given back to me. Now my outflow is 10,750. These are all my inflows for the first 5 years. So I am going to again use the same formula is equal to IRR bracket open. I select this range, close the bracket and enter. The rate of return per annum is 8.12%. Another beauty of Excel is you can always change this amount and see instead of 10,750, if I had purchased this bond at 10,500, my IRR would have been 8.72%. Now let me come to a very popular investment scheme which is being sold by many investment companies. I don't want to name the companies, but this is a scheme which has been very popular. The scheme is very simple. Some of you also must have come across this kind of an investment scheme where the company tells you, you pay 1 lakh rupees for the first 10 years. That means 0 to 9. 10 payments of 1 lakh you make. From the 11th year onwards, the company will pay you 2 lakh rupees for the next 10 years. So this is a very popular investment scheme, and unfortunately, many people are fooled in this scheme. The people who sell this scheme come and tell you your investment is 10 lakh rupees because you're paying 1 lakh every year for 10 years, and from the 11th year onwards, the company is paying you 2 lakh rupees every year for the next 10 years. Therefore, your total income from this is 20 lakhs, which is 2 lakh into 10. So they say it is doubling of your money, it is 100% return. Of course, no company in the literature talks about this 100% or doubling, but the representatives come and fool people. Many people get into this kind of an investment scheme thinking that you are getting very high rate of return here. But the reality is, if you are paying 1 lakh rupees every year for the next 10 years, and if the company is paying you 2 lakh rupees every year for the 10-year period after that, let us just see what is the rate of return. Is equal to IRR, bracket open. I select this range, this entire range I select, close that and enter. The rate of return is just about 7.18% per annum. I'm not saying the scheme is bad. If you are happy with 7.18% returns per annum, the scheme is wonderful. Of course, some people may get some tax benefit from the scheme. I have not included tax benefit. This is without including tax benefit, but I am only saying people shouldn't get fooled into these schemes saying that you are getting double the amount. Your annual rate of return is just about 7.18% from the scheme. Now, in all these examples, example 1, 2, and 3, one thing that we assumed is this interval between these cash flows was uniform, 1 year. Here also it was 1 year. Here also the interval was 1 year. Sometimes these intervals may not be seen. So let us look at one final example. If the cash flows are not at equal intervals and the exact date of cash flows are known, I know the cash flows and the date of cash flow, but they are not at equal interval. Let us take an example where you have to invest on 1st January 2020 50,000 rupees. On 31st March 2021, that is 15 months later, you will receive 3,000 rupees. 6 months from then, that is 30th September 2021, you will get 5,000 rupees. After that, in April 22, you will get 8,000 rupees. July 22, you will get 10,000 rupees. Then December 23, you get 15,000 rupees. February 24, you get 18,000 rupees. And 31st December 2024, you get 20,000 rupees. If this is a particular scheme, you can see that the cash flows are not uniformly spread. In this case, Excel has another function called XIRR. The syntax for this is XIRR values and dates. So let me redo this once again for you. Is equal to XIRR. You have to be very clear about the dates here. Dates have to be given clearly. First is values. So we select the value range, comma. We select the date range now, and then we close the bracket. Enter. The rate of return is 13.51% per annum. This XIRR function can also be used in all the earlier cases. Only thing is, instead of putting 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 here, you will have to put the actual dates. If actual dates can be inserted here, instead of IRR function, you can also use XIRR function. So from next time onwards, whenever you are trying to calculate the rate of return on any investment, please use the Excel function of IRR or the Excel function of XIRR. So that brings us to the end of this session on computation of rate of return.